Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. Welcome, everybody. This is a special edition of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen, and this is another edition of the SIP series, a sit-down interview series where I talk to those who've had a little bit of wrestling in their lives, a lot of wrestling in their lives, has had some sort of relation throughout their years. They were a fan when they grew up. They were a fan, currently. Whatever the case may be, I try to find the most interesting people to talk to about wrestling, whether they've still have it in their lives or not. And today is an interesting and quite frankly, I don't know any other word other than fascinating account and guy that I'm going to bring to you guys today. He is the owner and runner of the X Twitter account, the Yeah Revolution, the Yeah Revolution. His name is Tim. Welcome to the Juice Box, Tim. This is really cool. We kind of got in touch based on some of your WCW history, and we'll dive into that, in a little bit. But welcome to the show. And yeah, you're a huge LA Knight fan, and you've grown this account to levels that a lot of fans and people that want to build accounts would love to get to. So welcome to the show, and let's hear a little bit of a background of the account first before we dive into how you got to be a fan.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the Juice Box. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to talk about my past in professional wrestling, and let's talk about currently what's going on. Of course, the biggest thing that I'm known for now is creating the Revolution Twitter account. Now, I will say that when I first created this account back in May of 2023, it was initially the Yeah movement. Okay. And so the reason I changed it was because LA Knight did not like the comparison or the similarity to the Yes movement.
That makes sense.
Yes.
I didn't even think about that.
Which it does make sense. He went on I have a friend of mine who is a radio guy in New York, and he did an interview with LA Knight and brought up my account, and he mentioned that he enjoyed the account, he liked what I was doing, but he wasn't really a huge fan of me calling it the movement. He preferred to call it a revolution, which he feels it and I agree with him. This has been more like a revolution. So that's why we changed the name to the Revolution. And sort of the birth of this, I'm not just some, weirdo, fanatic out there that just loves LA Knight and I want to, talk about him and love him and all those things. Not really like that. I worked in politics for a couple years, and back in 2020, big election in 2020, I worked through the midterms of 2022, and I was very, very successful on social media. I had an account with over 100,000 followers. I did very well. I met some really amazing people, some people that might be considered celebrities, and it was great. But I got really burnt out from the whole political scene, as you might imagine. It is dog.
I was gonna say, you don't say you got burnt out from politics.
Oh, it's awful. It is. Even the people that are supposedly on your side are some of the dirtiest scumbags you could possibly imagine. Some of the things that I witnessed and saw with my own two eyes would surprise you. So, anybody who's out there is kind of tribalistic, maybe look inwards, and maybe, whoever you're representing or who you're for isn't perfect either. So anyway, moving on from that. So I got out of politics, and I thought to myself, you know what? I like wrestling. I've been a huge fan of wrestling ever since I was a kid. I had gotten out of it for quite a while. And then as I'm casually watching this LA Knight guy popped on the screen, and there was just something about him that captivated me. He just had this certain it factor. He reminded me of the great times in wrestling that I remember from the late 90s, of the Attitude Era and the Monday Night War era. And there was just something about him that just brought my passion back for professional wrestling. And I'm watching this guy, and he's awesome, but he's basically just being used as glorified enhancement talent. So yeah. I kind of got to the point where, is there anything that I can do to help? And the only thing that I could think of was use my experience with social media to maybe start some kind of, movement on social media on his behalf. And we started this in the spring of 2023. And within 3 months, I had 20,000 followers, and it was perfect timing, because that's when, it's perfect timing, because that's really when LA Knight started to get that rocket attached to his back and started to take off. And it's been an amazing experience ever since then. So, really, this was all done selfishly. I just wanted to see the guy get a push. I wanted to see him on TV more.
As we all do with our favorites, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I just wanted to see this guy be able to achieve his greatest potential. And where he was, kind of with no stories, nothing going on, just being thrown out there, losing every match, whether it's on TV, whether it's a house show, that's where he was for quite a while. People kind of forget that. Even after the Max Dupree thing and he became LA Knight again, look at the guy's win-loss record. I think he was something like 8-40 or something.
It wasn't great, no.
Yeah, it wasn't. So, I was just trying to help in any way that I could. We created the social media account on X there, and things took off. So it's been a blast. It's reignited my passion for wrestling. It's all because of LA Knight.
Yeah, man, that is a hell of a success story, even though the story isn't, written fully yet. I mean, Good Lord, this is going to come out here Friday after, 6 days after arguably LA Knight's biggest achievement, which is winning the United States Championship at SummerSlam against Logan Paul. I was there in attendance. It was an electric atmosphere.
Oh, you were?
Yes.
What kind of seats you have? You have some decent seats?
Yeah, I was in the 100 level. I got a great view of everything. And even, better, last fall at Payback, LA Knight really had a huge, deal with John Cena. And I felt that kind of put him on the map. And when I talked to one of the guys that always come in, Justin LaBar, who is on Busted Open Radio every Sunday morning, he brought to my attention when he was, in his seat at Payback, when Cena's out there and they hit LA Knight's music, Cena kind of mouthed to the referee wow, can you hear that? That's an amazing pop. And to see that and to know that, and I believe it, Cena's not going to, blow smoke. If someone's over, they're over. So to see that and to have that happen in about a year and a half's time now, and he's, where I think we all would like him to be. I'm going to ask you about this now. So you got back in with LA Knight here. Were you ever aware of LA Knight as Eli Drake in TNA, or when I really kind of got to know him was in NWA Power? I felt during the pandemic that was the most fun I could watch wrestling was NWA then, and Eli Drake stood out. And now throughout the multiple and the Maxim thing and male models, and I think he's at a good point now, wouldn't you say?
Yes, he is. And let me first say, I'll admit, I had no idea who he was until the Royal Rumble 2023 when he had that pitch black match with Bray Wyatt.
Unfortunately, Bray's final match, which I think is
it was his final PLE match.
PLE match, yeah.
Some people don't know he actually, the last 8 matches of Bray Wyatt's career were with LA Knight.
Wow.
They had the first match at the Royal Rumble, and then after that they had 7 matches that were on live events or
Yeah.
were dark matches during or after SmackDown events, stuff like that. So yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean Bray Wyatt's last match was with LA Knight. I think it was somewhere a house show in Illinois, I believe.
That's just
But no,
crazy,
look,
man.
yeah, it is. Who would have guessed at the time?
And
It's
I feel like,
sad.
yeah, I feel like LA Knight, at the time, and I feel like at the time for a lot of fans, especially just specifically the Royal Rumble match, it was like it almost seemed maybe underwhelming or just
Yeah,
for the sake of, Mountain Dew Pitch Black, which, WWE is a big sponsorship, thing, and like they love doing that type of stuff. But I think LA Knight probably looks back on it now with fondness
yes,
and, just happy that he had this moment with him. So
yes. I as a casual fan that I was at that time, I never really cared for Bray Wyatt. I never really cared for the spookiness and the paranormal stuff, all that stuff. It just didn't do it for me personally. And watching that match, it was more about discovering LA Knight than it was about anything else. I just remember, kind of thinking that match was a little bit of a, kind of a mess. But they tried something new, and I have no problem with WWE trying new things and seeing if it works, if it doesn't work. And I remember
absolutely.
Uncle Howdy with the big elbow from wherever the hell he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that to end that whole thing. But yeah, no, but that was really the night that I discovered LA Knight. And to be completely honest, as a casual WWE fan at the time, I had been watching casually for a couple of years at that point. I didn't even put 2 and 2 together that he had been Max Dupree. Because I had no
Wow.
idea. That's how
Yeah.
different. That's how different those two characters were from the same guy. So no,
And that's a
I
testament to the charisma of LA Knight,
yeah,
to the
yeah.
different character. You're going to see his true personality like shine.
Exactly, 100%. As Max Dupree, he was just another, schmuck.
He was a
But when
background guy for the main guys, really.
yes, yes, and when he was allowed to just be himself, man, that charisma, that it factor. I talked to so many people, and I've seen so many people say this, that they don't know exactly why they like him so much. They just do. And that goes back to the it factor. It's that certain unsaid, unteachable, intangible that he has, that some of the greats of all time have, that are just there, and you love them, and you may not even can't you really can't put your finger on why, but you love them. And that's the advantage that LA Knight has. And as we've seen over the last year and a half, that has really shined through. Now, to answer your question, again, I had never seen him. I never saw him in Impact. I never saw him in the NWA. I have gone back since becoming and started creating this account. I have gone back and watched quite a bit of video from him, not only in the NWA and in Impact TNA, but I've also gone back to the time that he was in Championship Wrestling from Hollywood between
Yes.
2010 and 2013. Some people still don't know this. He was actually, for those 3 years, he was managed by Percy Pringle, better known as Paul Bearer. And he managed LA Knight for 3 years there, and unfortunately passed away when he was his manager. And so they had a really, really strong bond between those two. So yeah, no, I've been able to go back and do a lot of research on Sean Ricker himself, from when he was a kid, through high school, through all that stuff, his career in wrestling. And I can tell you right now that he is an amazing role model for somebody, and an example of what can happen when you never ever stop believing in yourself, never give up. And he's a perfect example of that.
And like you just said, maybe that's why John Cena, was so attached to him. Never give up.
Yep.
I love the phrasing. I had to write it down because I didn't want to forget it. The unteachable intangible. It's a mouthful, but that's an amazing 2-word phrase.
Yeah.
But you're right, and I'm gonna kind of lay it out like this, okay? You and I. How old are you? If you don't mind me asking you, Tim.
I am 43 years young.
Exactly 43 years young. I'm 31 years old, feeling it more these days. But we both, recognize what happened throughout the Monday Night Wars, right?
Yes.
And you talk about how it's unteachable. It's something that we all can. These fans gravitate towards LA Knight, but you might not be able to pinpoint it. And there's been this critique. I can't call it anything other than a criticism from those who bring it up. Oh, he's got the Austin vest. He does the Rock's taunt in the corner. He talks like Steve Austin. But here's the thing. All of those guys that they're referencing, they took stuff from those previous to them.
Exactly.
Ric Flair took from other guys. Dusty Rhodes took from other guys. And it always progresses. I feel like in entertainment, there's only so many original ideas.
Right.
And it's about who gets the best from the combined idea. I think LA Knight combines most, if not, a lot of what we all loved in the Attitude Era. The attitude, literally, like the way he conducts himself in promos, is very. It's irresistible. Like you want to watch him cut promos.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
It always makes me chuckle a little bit when I hear people compare LA Knight to some of the greatest wrestlers of all time, like The Rock.
As if that's a bad thing too.
Right. And they think and they say it's a bad thing. And I'm like, are you out of your freaking mind? like he is bringing back memories. He is bringing all these thoughts, all these memories of some of the greats of all time. And you're saying that's a bad thing. Now, how long have people like me been begging and pleading and praying for someone to come along that gave us those vibes again of the
just
Attitude
something
Era?
Yeah, just a little bit,
How long have you all these years of NXT and the Wrestler Factor, all the kind of the same people coming out of that NXT and the Performance Center and all this stuff. And, here's a guy who's old school. This guy, again, he's been wrestling since 2003. So, yeah.
And I wanted, before you keep going, I do want to mention that too. You brought up a great point. You know what else I keep kind of parlaying his career with, LA Knight's? DDP. He's wrestled for a while, but now he's hitting his stride in his early 40s. Why not? Why not now? So
absolutely. Go ahead. Absolutely. Yep, that's perfect. And the whole People's Champion
there it is. Yeah.
LA Knight, that to me it's perfect for LA Knight. He really is the working man's champion, guy who has busted his ass, has never been given anything in his whole life. He's had to work his ass off, bust his ass his whole 21-year career now. And he mentioned this back at last year's Money in the Bank I think it was the SmackDown before Money in the Bank, when he came up to Logan Paul and he said, "Logan Paul, you talk about everything that you've been given. Well, I haven't been given a damn thing, but here we are, people yelling my name all around the world." That's the truth. That's the difference. He ain't been given a damn thing. But here he is at the top, United States champion. And it's just an amazing story. And it's just been a pleasure to watch all this unfold and to see him realize the potential that he has had all along. It's just been tremendous.
And it's got to be cool for you to be able to kind of, be right alongside all of his fans for this journey.
Yeah.
Being the flag bearer, the guy that, hey, we know that this guy's got the tools. We know he has it. And I know that you believe in him and I do too. Let's do this together, and social media, for its faults, and, Lord knows there's plenty of them. It really does bring people together. in a way that some other, formats can't. Especially in the pro wrestling world, as much. And you referenced tribalism earlier with politics.
Yeah.
Tribalism with wrestling is at an all-time high, it seems.
Of course. Yeah.
These days. But in that, to see, an account like yours, literally just dedicated to a guy, I love that. And I feel like you might, you're onto something with that. And I think that it's only going to help not just LA Knight, but I think other accounts like yours, I feel like are going to start popping up as well. And
it's funny you say that.
Yeah.
Because that definitely, when I created this account and we had so much success. I mean, the amount of movement accounts that started popping up were every other day I would see a new, I remember there was the Shoosh movement for Chad Gable, and all these different movements popped up. And as a matter of fact, this is actually funny. It's a true story. Back when The Rock returned, and it looked like he was going to be the guy that was going to be wrestling Roman Reigns in the main event. That whole situation happened, and there was this huge outcry over that weekend. The "We Want Cody" hashtag and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember on the Sunday morning, I sent out a post and I said, somebody should really create an account, a "We Want Cody" account right now, because I promise you that shit's going to take off really well. Yeah. And this guy Trevor DM'd me, and he created this account, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to give it a shot. And I helped promote him. I helped advertise it. And within 6 hours, he had about 7,000 followers or so.
Wow.
And he is, now he's, his account's followed by Cody Rhodes, and it's one of the biggest Cody Rhodes accounts on social media. So
that's incredible.
Like you said, yeah. I love seeing his success. It makes me feel so good because he was just this unknown person. He got that one idea and he ran with it. He's done an amazing job with it. So
to credit you, you're paying it forward. You helped with this success of LA Knight, and selflessly, you put the bone out for him, and now look at that account. So I think along with guys like you in the space, I think only helps fandoms grow in a positive way.
It does, and that's one of the big things for me too. Like, my account is about highlighting the positives of LA Knight and hyping him up. It's not about attacking other people. It's not about attacking other wrestlers, except maybe a little bit Logan Paul.
That's okay. That's fine.
But no, look, it's about positive stuff, not attacking other people, not attacking other accounts. None of that shit. It's about highlighting LA Knight, hyping LA Knight, promoting LA Knight, and like I said, galvanizing support behind him. So I'm really happy that we've been able to have such a successful account without using some of the maybe dirty tactics or fake news or any of that negative stuff that some other people do. So really proud of what we've accomplished, and we have a long way to go. I think we have a lot more to accomplish as well.
Absolutely, man. I feel like, the United States title is a great accomplishment, but I would be lying if I said that I felt that was his ceiling. He already had his big match with Roman. He was in the Fatal 4-Way against Roman. I think the world title is absolutely in the cards for LA Knight. I think that, Triple H in this regime really has helped. He sees what maybe Vince never saw, or gives an opportunity at the very least, to talent that may have not gotten that chance. And it's not to say that, okay, it's all Triple H, he's just doing all these things. Like, you got to still have it, and LA Knight undoubtedly has it. So I feel like it's something that, one works with the other, and it all works out to the success of LA Knight, and with help from guys like you as well.
Yeah, I'll say this real quick. Without Triple H, I really believe this. I think that LA Knight is probably in TNA or AEW right now.
And that's not even a negative to say, but you also know that WWE, being straight up and with the facts, WWE is the number one promotion at least in North America, if not the world,
World.
outside of New Japan and stuff. But
Yeah.
to hear that, it's not that he wouldn't flourish in the other companies, but he's going to have his biggest and obviously like brightest opportunities under the WWE banner. So
exactly.
Yeah.
No, Vince would have gotten rid of him
Yeah.
a year ago. I mean, there's no doubt about it, because it's just he never bought into the LA Knight thing. He just, I don't know what the hell he was thinking. Thought he was too old, which is a joke. It's just, I don't know what he was smoking at the end there, but yikes.
Exactly. Well, things seem a little bit better across the board for WWE. So looking up, as they say.
Yeah.
So I first reached out to you, not to just discuss LA Knight, but I was really intrigued when I found out that you had more than just a little bit of history in regards to WCW, World Championship Wrestling in the 90s. So brief thing on me, I'm 31. So, I mean, I was, 8 when the Monday Night Wars ended in 2001. But we were watching Nitro, taping Raw. That's what my parents and myself, we always would watch Nitro,
Yep.
And I recall so many great moments throughout the years. And when WCW closed in 01, for 4 years, I did not watch any wrestling. And I got brought back in, from WrestleMania 21. That was how it went. And I never really looked back. But as I've gotten older throughout, Instagram and social media in general, I've begun to try to procure as much unique WCW memorabilia as, any other person. I want to be the guy that has, specifically me, WCW pay-per-view T-shirts from 1990 to 2001. Yes.
Yeah.
I need 10 more to complete that specific year set. So I'm fascinated with WCW, and it's my favorite promotion of all time. I talk about it ad nauseum on this show, on Twitter. So to know that you were, I think I first reached out knowing that you were at Slamboree 98.
Yes.
And then we kind of had a little brief synopsis of what we might talk about today. And you said you were the WCW magazine. You had a pro wrestling newsletter, maybe unrelated to WCW to start. And you worked with the 1-800 hotline for 96 to 98. Is that correct?
Yes, I had a 800 hotline. Yeah.
Right. So all those things, I'm like, man, this is the perfect person for me to talk to, because I love WCW. Me and a couple guys, we had reviewed the Who Killed WCW series, which was a lot of fun discussing, because they look to me as the encyclopedia of WCW. But I have only been to a couple house shows for WCW outside of the Nitro where Kevin Nash debuted in 96, but I was 3, so I don't remember it. But outside of that, vague memories at best. So let's dive into it. How did you get involved with WCW? You said you also attended the debut of Ultimate Warrior in WCW with 20-minute promo. That must have been unique. Before we go, I want you to dive into WCW, but before that, can you just give me a first quick introduction to how you even knew what pro wrestling was and what your first live event that you got to attend, and then go into WCW?
Yeah. So the very first wrestling that I remember watching, I may have watched them before, but this is the first I remember, was the main event. I was on a Friday night. The main event where the Mega Powers exploded, where the whole thing with Macho Man and Hulk Hogan, the tag team match against the Twin Towers there, Hakeem, the Big Boss Man, and Randy Savage lands on Miss Elizabeth, and Hogan carries her to the back, and Macho Man got pissed off and slapped Hogan, and they had that big brawl in the back there, and that was my first memory of wrestling. And so I started, my first house show, stuff like that, was late 80s, 88, 89, somewhere in there. And huge WWF fan. I never watched WCW when I was a kid, in the late 80s, early 90s. And then right around like WrestleMania 8-ish, that's when I started to get out of wrestling a little bit. I didn't really watch much until I got back into it in late 94, early 95, which was perfect timing, as we were headed towards the Monday Night War era. And that's when I became like obsessed with wrestling. That was an amazing time. You know, pretty much my high school years, watching wrestling. And that's really when like social media started. And I remember America Online, like America Online and CompuServe and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So I had America Online. That was the biggest, quote unquote social media thing out there.
Well, I remember briefly. I remember like sometimes they would cut during WCW pay-per-views, and the one I remember the most is the Giant. And it's like, talk to the Giant on CompuServe, and this mammoth man is sitting behind this little think pad, and he's like making these weird facial contortions, and I'm like, is he even on this computer? What the hell's going on? So I remember AOL and CompuServe.
Yeah. So speaking of the Giant, one of my favorite memories of WCW. Now, I didn't order the pay-per-views back then, but you could watch the scrambled screen of the pay-per-view. So in other words, you could
audio only, baby.
Yeah, you could hear it, but you couldn't see it because of the scrambled screen. And I'll never forget, I was doing that during a Halloween Havoc '95.
No way. You heard the Yeti live on audio. You're lucky because you probably thought it was an amazing moment until you saw it visually. That's the best anecdote I'll get from this thing. That's incredible.
What just happened? The Giant fell off the roof? Oh my God, this is real. This is real. This isn't supposed to happen. Oh my God.
That's fascinating though, because truly they sell it via audio. So if you're not watching, you don't see it as, insane, hokey or anything. That's amazing. Wow.
Oh my God. So anyway, when I, being on America Online, I saw these little newsletters started popping up on America Online. So I'm like, I'm going to do this. I love wrestling. I can do newsletters. So I started my own little newsletter on America Online. It was called Primetime Wrestling. And, it took off. I had thousands of subscribers and stuff like that. And then I started.
Man, you really know how to build a following no matter what you're doing, whatever decade, whatever medium. Man.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Like I don't know.
It's not that it's weird. I was going to say, it seems like a trend. You know what the hell you're doing. So that's nice.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yes.
So we went from that, and that was successful. So I ended up. I'm gonna admit to committing a crime here too, by the way. So hopefully, the police aren't listening.
I hope they're not. I hope they are right here on the Juice Box.
So I bought this. There was this guy who was selling stolen SkyTel. I don't remember SkyTel. They had pagers. And
my dad had a pager back in the day.
They would have you could call the number and leave a voicemail. And so what I did is I bought this voicemail box for $40. And the greeting for the voicemail, you could record up to a 3-minute message. So I used that as my hotline. So every day.
Wow.
I would.
That's genius.
Yeah. So I would, go on there every day and give people the wrestling news, what was going on in wrestling and all this stuff. And met some really cool people. The coolest person, I'll tell you right now, the coolest person that I met, with the exception of Patty Terry, who was my boss with WCW Magazine. She was the executive editor. Coolest guy that I met in WCW was James Mitchell, better known as James Vandenberg. WCW.
Yeah. Wow, love that.
He's become a little bit more famous recently after the whole thing where he was on that NWA pay-per-view.
Yes, he was. Yes, that is true. That is where he's most known for these days. Yes.
But yes, James Mitchell. But yeah, no, he was awesome. We'd have me and my friend who helped me run the newsletter. We'd have just hour-long conversations with him on the phone. When he was James Vandenberg in WCW, and it was just so cool getting his insight and all the stuff was going on. But anyway, so I create this hotline. I'm running that for a while, and I get this voicemail from this woman who's claiming to be the executive editor of WCW Magazine. Turns out it was this woman,
Wow.
Patty Terry, wonderful, wonderful woman, and we became really good friends. We talked all the time on the phone, and she would give me, like, she had some inside scoops on some of the stuff going on in WCW, so she would give me news for the hotline and the newsletter. And at this point, I think I was like I don't know, sophomore or junior in high school. So, like, I'm living the dream at this point. And
Absolutely.
you know what I mean? And I don't know, just kind of eventually, yeah, we, like I said, we were really good friends. We talked a lot, and she needed some help with the magazine for her stories, like research and stuff like that for her stories. So she brought me on, helped out with to help out with the magazine. So that's how I was able to sort of, get my comp tickets to all the shows that came around the New England area, and the whole experience was just absolutely amazing. I didn't really meet a lot of the wrestlers per se. Like, I was able to meet a couple, and shake their hands and stuff like that. Right. My favorite guy was Randy Savage, man.
Oh man, I bet it's a legend.
He was a crazy man, but very nice, but very, very nice to me. And but yeah, no, man, it was an amazing experience. Here I am, this pimply faced teenager in high school, and I'm living the dream. I'm working for WCW. Now, truth be told, I was always a WWF mark. Like, I love the WWF, and
right.
Back then, my tribalism leaned towards the WWF. So I would have rather WWF, but hey, I was working for WCW. I had no complaints.
For your amazing contributions that you've listed so far, we as WCW fans forgive you.
Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
So no, it was a tremendous experience. Like I said, I was able to experience a lot of great things, and learn a lot about the business, behind the scenes of the business, and really, grew a new appreciation for wrestlers and what they go through every day, and all that type of stuff. So at a very early age, so just a tremendous experience, and so.
Wow, that's so fascinating. I couple of quick little questions about some of the stuff you've mentioned.
Yeah.
Was there any issue, not literally, but any issue in regards to, like, maybe a cease and desist calling your newsletter Primetime Wrestling?
Right. No. I was small potatoes. Potatoes for them. I never heard anything. But, it's funny because at the time, I'm not thinking about those things.
Of course not.
I'm going to call it Primetime Wrestling. I like that.
Yep.
I'm going to call it that. No, nothing like that.
And then I was going to say, Mean Gene, eat your heart out with your own 1-800 hotline. I mean,
yes. Yeah, oh my God.
Did you have a unique number? Because I don't think anything tops 1-900-909-9900.
Yeah, I had no control over the phone number because, again, it was stolen. So, I took what I could get.
It's just this crazy, like, 9-digit, like, unbelievable, like, you can't remember. It's all different numbers.
Yeah, it was an 800 number. I remember the last four digits was 8025. I don't remember. I think you know what? Now that I think about it, I think it was 1-800-393-8025. Yeah, that's ringing a bell. Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Did it stand for anything, or was just the number that they gave you?
It was just the number they gave me.
Because that'd have been cool if it was like 1-800 something ring.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, something with wrestling. That'd have been amazing. But yeah, it's
in
fascinating that you even had that.
In a perfect world, maybe, but
that's right.
We don't live in a perfect world.
No, we do not. But WCW was close at times. What do you recall from particularly Slamboree 98, Worcester, Massachusetts, May 17th? I recently rewatched the show, and I do want to mention a couple things, and then I'll, you can have the floor. Yeah. The Fit Finlay Benoit match was fantastic to start off. we have arguably one of the biggest pops in WCW with That's Not Cyclope, and it was Dean Malenko coming out to win the Battle Royal, then defeating Jericho. And then the unique yet kind of sad Scott Hall turning on Kevin Nash, the end of the Outsiders, as it were. Outside of that, a pretty random undercard that served its purpose. But as we all know in WCW, the undercard, great. The main event, not so good.
Right.
So what do you recall from this interesting event where we're a month or two away from Goldberg taking the world by storm and WCW really being on a path to success?
Where I was sitting, you can see me quite a few times. I was right on the rail at the entranceway.
Okay.
So I was right there, like right back corner of the entranceway. You know, I could see everything that was going on the stage there perfectly. And I remember, I think Chris Jericho came out, and I think he did the introductions for all the.
Yes, he did.
The luchadors for that battle royal. I remember
it was something.
It was so funny. Now, what you didn't mention about that pay-per-view,
and
what some people may remember about that very famously, was that
I know what you're gonna say. I can't believe I forgot about this because it wasn't listed as an actual match because it never happened.
No, right.
Go ahead.
Right. Vince McMahon was invited to this pay-per-view to have a match with Eric Bischoff. And it was so great how they hyped it up too. Like, you know, I think they started the pay-per-view with Doug Dillinger outside, and he had Vince McMahon's like ID ready for him when he showed up, and they had they had his name on his dressing room and all this stuff. And it was such a ploy. But you know what? That's Eric Bischoff.
Absolutely.
Eric Bischoff, for all the shit he gets, all the grief he gets, and there's a lot of stuff he did wrong, he was never, ever afraid to try new things and try different things.
That's what made him successful in the first part.
Yes. And so, so he came out for the match, and of course, Vince never showed up, and they did the 10 count. And so, Vince never showed up. He got counted out, and Eric Bischoff won. That was one of the things I remember really well from that pay-per-view. I remember the thing with Scott Hall turning on Nash, and I actually knew that was going to happen beforehand. I was told that Scott was gonna turn on Nash, and of course, this is before social media, like tweeting and stuff anywhere.
Yes.
iPhones and all that shit. So. They could tell me that, and I wouldn't be able to tweet it out to the world.
Right. And you mentioned, as you talked about the magazine and everything, that's how wrestling fans got anything, even if it was a month late, because it would publish in June, but it would talk about Spring Stampede. And it's like, man, we're almost at Road Wild. And like, what are we doing? So it was unique, but that was the only way at the time with the internet at its infancy to really get wrestling news and who jumped where. And unless you watched every week of every show, the magazines really helped you out.
Or unless you got Meltzer's Observer, which
or they called your 1-800-476-9435.
Right. Daily news, behind the scenes exclusive news I had that nobody else had.
That's right.
Great.
So what about Meltzer though?
No, I was going to say it's funny because they Patty would actually send me the Observer after she would read it, and then she would send it to me. So I have a whole bunch of Observers that I never spent the dime on Dave Meltzer stuff, but she did send it to me. I have a whole bunch of Observers. I don't know if you ever saw one of these these paper Observers.
I don't think I've ever actually seen a printed physical copy of an Observer other than Hogan throwing it in the trash and burning it at World War III 95.
Like, holy shit, you need a magnifying glass to read this thing. That's how small the print is on it.
Wow.
It's like he jams so much into this thing, and it's such tiny print.
Probably better off that it's online now.
Yeah. We can talk about Dave Meltzer another day, and Brian Alvarez and those guys. Just great memories. And like I said, I was at the Ultimate Warrior's debut,
Yeah.
Believe it was August 18th,
I think you told
1998.
me August 17th. So
Was it 17th? Okay, 17th. Yeah.
that's what you
Okay.
said. So, I mean, it could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it probably was 17th. Yeah, 1998, Hartford, Connecticut Civic Center. And yeah, we all pretty much knew he was showing up that night. Kind of a good way to, because they were in Vince's WWF's backyard there in
Yep.
Hartford. Kind of
Perfect.
good, a perfect place to kind of shove it up his ass. Now, of course, he came out to a huge pop. We were so pumped to see the Ultimate Warrior. Here he was back, and he was in WCW, and it was so exciting. And then he did the promo, and we
And he did the
realized,
promo, and he did the promo, and he kept doing the
dude,
promo.
like, this guy is off the rails. Holy crap. What is he even talking about? But we loved it.
Of course.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, as kids, like, we didn't know what he was talking about either back in his prime in the WWF. We had no idea what he was talking about. We just loved it, But
Absolutely.
so it was good for old time's sakes. But then it just didn't. He was a disaster and didn't last long. But it was fun. That night was fun. It was a memorable experience in Hartford that night.
I bet. Have you been to any other, like, were you at WrestleMania 11 or any of the other
No,
Northeast
no.
specific shows or?
So the only pay-per-view I went to was the Degeneration X in your house in December of '97.
Oh man, that's a pretty
Yeah,
good one.
yeah, that was like a few minutes from my house right here in,
Oh
in
my God, that's
Springfield,
great.
Mass. But the most memorable show that I went to, one of the most historic, if it's probably, I would say it's probably the greatest Raw of all time,
Oh boy.
was on December 29th, 1998, Worcester, Massachusetts. Mick Foley wins the WWF Championship for the first time.
That'll put a lot of butts in the seats.
Yeah, exactly. And people forget that when that aired the following Monday, because it was taped
Mm-hmm.
on a Tuesday, and they would air the Raw the following Monday. It was like back then they did a live show every other week. So they would have the live Raw on Monday, and then the very next night they would tape the Raw for the following Monday.
Right.
So that's what they did in this case. So it aired, I think it was January 4th.
Yep,
And
1999. That's the Georgia Dome,
yes,
finger poke. So,
yep, exactly. And that's what I was gonna say. So one of the greatest Raws of all time that Tony Schiavone poo-pooed. I know Eric Bischoff made him do it,
Right.
but he poo-pooed
Still.
Mick Foley winning. As that was happening, over on WCW, you had the finger poke of doom, one of the most infamous moments in WCW history. So it's like that night was like you saw where both companies were going. Like it was kind of the writing was on the wall as far as who's going to win this war.
Right. And we had. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So just a quick thing about that
Yeah,
Raw. People still to this very day, and I agree with them, the biggest pop in wrestling history was when the glass shattered. Stone Cold Steve Austin came out to help Mick Foley win the championship that night. Go back and you watch that.
I've seen it so many times.
And
I love Michael Cole, just like he's drowned out by the crowd, but he's like, what? Like he couldn't believe it was happening.
I mean, I was part of that, and
yeah, that's amazing.
I just remember absolute pandemonium. Like people were jumping up and down and going ballistic because of everything that happened that night. And what people forget is that Austin had legit been sick. Like he hadn't been on the shows for a couple weeks. So
okay.
we really didn't think he was going to be there. Like he wasn't on the live Raw the night before. He wasn't on the show at all. So we're thinking it's a tape show.
Right.
He ain't gonna be here. Like we were really thinking he wasn't gonna be there. But when that glass shattered, dude, it was.
So that's the genius of it, is that they didn't have him, and then boom, right when you least expect it.
It was just a compilation. Everything came together to where that crowd, we went absolutely ballistic. Now, another thing about that night people forget is that like, you talked about like Eric Bischoff wanting to give away as a spoiler what happened
Yeah,
on
as he
Raw
did
before they
for
win.
most Raws, he would do that, or preempt the show 3 minutes before Raw started to give away some
Yes.
results.
So on this particular, he hadn't done it for a while until this particular night where he gave away that Mick Foley was going to win.
Yep.
Well, this idiot, he played right into the WWF's hands because the WWF themselves gave it away. They gave it away on their website right after the show. They advertised on their website that Mick Foley had won the WWF Championship tonight. So they wanted people to know he won.
And it's funny you say that because throughout the years, I remember not the infancy of, but whenever I first started really getting the internet in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And, for instance, I think like Edge won the world title with Money in the Bank on SmackDown, but that was a taped show. And they were like, no, well, Edge won the world title tonight. Tune in on Friday to see it. And it was like, wow, not only do they not care that it's not surprised, like we won't be shocked by it, but they're advertising like, hey, This is awesome. This happened. Make sure you don't miss it. Yes. So I'm fascinated. I did not actually know that in 98 they post that to where for 99, boom. And that's how you start off a year.
Yep. No, that's where Eric Bischoff fumbled biggest, because he played right into their hands because they wanted people to know. They wanted people to know. And I think it just, people kind of forget that part of that story. It's, people talk about it all the time that he gave away the result, but that's what they wanted. They wanted him to do that, and he fucking did it.
That's right.
Like and they said, hundreds of thousands of people immediately switched Nitro off and turned on Raw. So brilliant.
And apart on WCW's, their creativity or lack thereof, again, like I said, we discussed this on the Who Killed WCW like post shows or whatever. It was not just that, they did the finger poke of doom, because objectively it is an interesting swerve that, they're just going to pull the rug out from everybody and the NWO is back together. But the problem I felt was you had Goldberg, who had just lost the streak, lost the title. Yep. The following pay-per-view, he's going against Scott Hall in a ladder match for the Taser. He never goes back for the WCW title again. Yeah. He has a rematch with Nash at Spring Stampede 99, but like everything is not the title. They never had anything creative after the finger poke to do anything with the guy that was the Golden Goose, the guy that made them huge in mid 98.
Yes.
So everybody's at fault there. And there's so many different, like, you take what, like, even if they didn't do that, even if they had something with Goldberg, but they did, what you said, they said to switch it over, and WWF advertised it. If they didn't have that, it's not like they had Goldberg do it. Like, no matter what they did, if you took away any of it, WCW was never going to recover from that overall night.
No. So, no. And we talk about, they came out, Vice came out with that new show, the new documentary, Who Killed WCW. Not trying to pinpoint who killed. Let me tell you something, okay? There were There were a lot of people at fault for the death of WCW. But the bottom line with that was that the only person in that whole company that wanted wrestling on Turner Networks was Ted Turner. And once he was gone, and that's what happened when the AOL merger happened, it was going to go away. And there was nothing that was going to save WCW. Of course, obviously the business tanked. They lost tens of millions of dollars. So it made the decision that much easier.
Absolutely.
But
there was no reason to keep it.
No.
It's like they're hemorrhaging money. Why would we want this anymore? We didn't want it in the first place. Ted is the only one that wanted it, and we have a reason to not keep it going. So let's pull the plug. We don't care.
Yes, exactly. So, the fate of WCW had been sealed, years before it actually happened. So, again, there were plenty of culprits in that whole situation as far as WCW declining so rapidly and so
Yes.
quickly to where it was just a joke. But yeah, no, that company was doomed for quite a while.
Yeah, I think Tony Schiavone quoted it as a coffin on roller skates. So it was just always happening. Like it was
Yeah,
never gonna, you couldn't stop it, you know?
correct.
Um,
Correct.
so I'm gonna have one or two more questions,
Mhm.
and then I'd like to do a rapid fire, like free quick association thing with you, because I love doing that with any guest on the Juice Box and the Sip
Great.
series. I love giving little rapid fires just to hear your perspective on things. But before we close out with that,
Mhm.
what do you miss about like working for the WCW magazine? What do you miss about WCW as a whole? You got to
Um,
meet some guys. You got to, be ensconced in one of the hot companies in the Monday Night Wars, in the thick of it. What do you miss about that whole experience and, the company as a whole, or the 90s as a whole? However you
I
want to phrase
just
it.
I just miss the competition. Um, I miss the competition that WCW was for the WWF. It's impossible to understand how awesome that Monday Night War era was if you didn't live through it.
Yeah, unless you live through it. That's right. It's tough to do,
Yeah,
especially now
like
that even there's competition, it's not on the same night. It's
no,
just
it's not
not
even
the
close.
same.
No, I
No.
mean, God bless AEW, but
Yes.
it's not even close to what.
WCW truly made WWF like, oh, I guess we have
Yeah,
to try a little
yeah,
harder. Like,
they made them. Bischoff and WCW, the success they had made Vince McMahon change his business model. They made him um, do something different and completely radically different than what he had been doing. And that in itself forced the business to evolve and grow. And without that competition, God only knows where we'd be right now. I can't even imagine like what would have happened if Vince McMahon didn't get that swift kick in the butt from WCW. So
That's
what
right.
I miss the most are those Monday nights, just waking up on a Monday and having that to look forward to. And it was like the Super Bowl every Monday night. And you're flipping between both stations, and it was just so awesome. It was so much fun. And then you watch what happens, and then and you enjoy that, and then you have so much to talk about, and what's going to happen next week, and what company's going to do this, and what companies, where are they going to go this direction. Things like Rick Rude showing up on both shows on the same night, and it was just tit for tat stuff. Like you said, um, I remember when the WWF, they moved Raw. I think they moved it to, I forget what they did exactly, but like Nitro went 2 hours, then Raw went 2 hours to compete with them, and then WCW would start their show 3 minutes early, so WWF would have to start their show 3 minutes early to compete with that, and then they would have an overrun, all these
Yeah.
different things. They were just tit
And
for tat with each other. It was just so much fun. You don't
and
realize
Thunder
at the
Thunder
time,
came
like,
before SmackDown.
what's that?
I said, and then sorry to cut you off, but WCW did Thunder
Yes.
before SmackDown. Some people, I mean, looking back on it, seemingly they might not have wanted to do Thunder, but
Right.
it's fascinating that they had a second show before SmackDown even happened.
They did.
A year
They did.
before it happened. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's correct. That's correct. But it was just so much fun to just, like I said, looking back on it now, when you're in the moment and you're watching this, you don't think it's ever going to end. You think it's going to be like this forever. And then it's like when it ended, it's like you realize what you had and how awesome it was, because as we saw, there was still a very loyal, hardcore following for WCW right up until the very end, because you look at the ratings,
Yeah.
and you had 2 million less people watching wrestling on Monday nights when WCW folded, and from that point on, ratings just went down, 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 down. And quite frankly, I was one of those people to stop watching.
Yeah.
I stopped watching around WrestleMania 18. The last thing I remember watching was when the NWO came into the WWF.
Yeah.
And Hogan and Rock had that match at WrestleMania 18. And then
Yeah.
Lesnar showed up the next night. It's really the last thing I remember. After
Wow.
that, I don't remember anything really. And then I stopped watching. I stopped watching altogether for quite a while. And I came back casually to wrestling around like 2017, 2018, whenever Goldberg came back.
Yeah, it's like end of 2017, I think.
Yeah.
Or 2016 into 2017, yeah.
Yeah, when he had that match with Lesnar,
Yeah.
first match.
Yep.
That's when I started to kind of casually watch again. So I was away from wrestling completely for 15 years. And then
That's a long time.
It is. It was. I missed all
You missed a lot.
The TNA stuff and all that. I missed all that. But there's a
You
reason.
missed good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah,
missed it all.
You know. It's just I just moved on and had new interests. But like I said, one man brought my passion back, and that was LA Knight. Why we're here right now.
That's right, man. I just want to say before we do this little rapid fire, this has been one hell of an interview with you. I am so happy that not only that I reached out to you, but that you got back to me and you've been so gracious with time. I know it's been tough to get this thing set up, but I mean, I have not had this much fun just going over.
That's great.
Random 90s wrestling and this LA Knight thing is just blowing me away.
Yeah.
And it all makes sense whenever you're telling me about how it's honestly just like grinding. Like you got the 1-800 thing, you had a newsletter, but you always got it to a level. And when you believe in something, you put forth your effort to it, and you can see the success, and you feel proud and compelled to just pay it forward. So it's been fascinating to hear.
My story it kind of shows like you just mentioned. Like if you have a dream, if you have something you want to accomplish, it can happen. No matter what it is, it can happen. If you just work hard enough and I'm not gonna lie, you need to get some breaks along the way and some good fortune. Like, dude, I was working for WCW magazine when I was a junior in high school. Like, dude, I was involved in the business when I was a junior in high school. And at that time, it was funny, when I was a freshman in high school, I was considered, like a loser for watching wrestling. By the time I was a senior, I was one of the cool kids because I knew the most about wrestling. Because wrestling was like the biggest thing in pop culture for the teenagers at that point. It was just funny how that all worked out. So that's the thing, man. Like whatever you have goal and you have in mind, you think it seems impossible, you can do it. It's just you got to just keep believing. Just like LA Knight, man. You just got it. It might take a while. It may take 20 years.
Yeah.
But you can do it. You can do it.
And
just don't give up.
That's right. And it's funny how you say, about just like wrestling fans, I feel like definitely had a stigma. Even in the 90s, like when it was at its hottest, maybe that we'll ever see, it was still tough to just mention that you were a wrestling fan. And it's great because this past year, WrestleMania 40, I was there and I went with two guys that I went to high school with. And they knew I was a huge wrestling fan, and they never really made fun of me for it, but they were never a fan. They were just like fringe, or they watched some shows early in their lives.
Sure.
And I was like, look, like it's in Philly. We can make this happen. Let's go. We go to WrestleMania, and who's the person that they almost immediately fell in love with? LA Knight.
Really?
They loved loved everything about it. It was nostalgic, but they didn't know like why.
Yes.
And I'm like, look, he's combining hell yeah and what, and it's like a genius move. Like there's so many little pieces of LA Knight that I can pluck from other wrestlers, but it's the best. Like it's not anything hacky. He doesn't seem like he's cosplaying. He's authentically himself, but he has the, as the kids say, the aura of those that came before him.
He has that it factor. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not making this up.
Yeah.
Genuinely, there have been, dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of people where I've seen in comments that have reached out through me through direct message, that have reached out through me to replies on my tweets. I haven't reached out to them. They reached out to me, unforced. And they told me that the reason they got back into wrestling was because of LA Knight. Oh, I used to watch during the Monday Night era. Stop watching. I'm watching again because of LA Knight. How many people have come back to wrestling just because of LA Knight? It is mind-blowing. How many people are like me? I just happened to create an account on social media. There are hundreds of other people just like me who had their passion for wrestling reignited because of LA Knight. And that's the truth. And that is why I think this guy is destined to be a world champion in that company. He just has that it factor that you can't stop. It's just there, and you can't stop the momentum. You can try. He's been, it's been difficult over the last, 6 or 8 months. Like, he's kind of been, storylines haven't been great. He's kind of been all over the place a little bit, but his popularity remains there because he just has that, like I said, that unsaid, unteachable, intangible that it's there. So it's just going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, man, the ride is not over, and I only see more success for LA Knight and the Revolution account, as you so humbly put it. I'm going to put the rapid fire to you right now. Are you ready for this?
Sure.
A couple of quick questions just to gauge where you are as a fan. I might skip some of the questions that deal with wrestling after 2002 between then and 2020, but considering you weren't really there, but it's no big deal. Yeah. All right. Hogan or Flair?
Hogan.
Favorite era of The Undertaker?
The original Undertaker, definitely.
Would you prefer to watch a pay-per-view on Saturday night or Sunday night?
Saturday night.
What is your favorite WrestleMania?
Oh, God. For me, it would probably be WrestleMania. I'm going to go WrestleMania 14, where Austin won the championship. That's my favorite.
There you go. Favorite face of Foley?
Oh, Mankind.
This is a little bit of a tougher one, but favorite match of the first 9 WrestleManias, but it's not a Hulk Hogan match.
Oh, God. You know what? I'm going to go with Warrior Savage retirement match, WrestleMania 7.
Wow, that is literally one of my favorite matches, and I would probably pick the exact same match, so hell yeah.
Yeah.
Favorite tag team of all time?
Favorite tag team? I'd probably go, one that's sticking out of me is Demolition.
Okay. Outside of LA Knight, who was your favorite all-time pro wrestler?
Kind of a tie between Hogan and Austin. The kid in me, it's definitely Hogan, but Austin was definitely my favorite. When I was a teenager, I would say probably a tie between those two guys.
Outside of LA Knight, who would be your favorite wrestler currently on any programming these days? AEW, WWE, TNA, anything?
Who I like? I like Joe Hendry.
I too believe in Joe Hendry. Look at that.
There's certain guys, man, like he's another one that has that it factor.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man. He gets an opportunity in the big leagues. Watch out.
Would you say that you have a favorite WCW pay-per-view that you've ever watched? If you could just pick one, maybe it's Slamboree 98. I don't know.
It's got to be the first one I ordered. It has to be Bash at the Beach '96.
It wasn't the scrambled audio of Halloween Havoc 95.
I did actually watch that. Someone brought a videotape over for me, so I did actually watch it eventually.
That's the best thing from this whole interview. I'm telling you, man. As a WWE fan, to hear that you heard what people say is like one of the worst moments, but you only heard the audio and was like captivated because you only heard it.
See, I look back in that pay-per-view with fond memories. I love that pay-per-view.
Me too.
It was so bad, it was good, man.
Oh, man. All right, and then my last one, Bret or Shawn?
Bret. Definitely Bret.
All right, man. This has been one hell of an interview. I'm so happy that we got to finally make this happen. Before we close out, I'm not going to say what you need to plug. Just plug it away, man.
Well, of course, if you're on social media, we're Yeah Revolution. Check us out. We are on X. I also have a smaller account, which I don't use as much. I do use it every once in a while. You can also follow us on Instagram. So Instagram and on X, Twitter, it is the Yeah Revolution. And we have a whole boatload of great things lined up. And hopefully we'll be going for a very long time. So make sure you check us out and join the ride. Join the revolution. Yeah.
Yeah, this has been the SIP series featuring Tim at Yeah Revolution, the LA Knight fan page of all fan pages. Let me tell you, this has been an amazing interview, man. I appreciate you coming on, and you are honestly welcome any time to discuss LA Knight, WCW, or any other wrestling ventures. So
beautiful.
Appreciate you being on, man.
I look forward to be back. What a great time, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. This has been the Juice Box. I'm Juice Springsteen. Hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of your week. As for Tim, for LA Knight, and yours truly, this has been the Juice Box right here every Friday. So appreciate it. See you guys next week.
That was the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to the Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.